Jen Dahl, and I'm going to take you through the exercise of the month featuring the Halo Trainer Plus. So we're going to work on a series of movements that we're aiming to address awareness and mobility as well as strength through the hip and through the lumbopelvic region. Okay, so first things first, we're going to make sure that the ball is in the halo frame in a secure position. So we want to make sure that the ball is pushed far enough in that there's no chance that the ball could roll outside of the frame while we're performing these series of movements and exercises. Okay, so you've got that set. Next thing is we're going to look at the starting position for the first movement. Okay, so I'm just going to move the halo over to the side for a moment, and you are going to have your knees underneath your pelvis. Then what I'm going to ask you to do is take one leg out to the side. So you're in an asymmetrical position here. Okay, so that's going to obviously require a certain degree of stability to counteract rotation, etc. So you want to make sure that all of those dynamic stabilizers are in play in your start position as well as throughout the exercise. Okay, so the supporting knee is going to be underneath the pelvis, okay? And as I mentioned earlier or just prior, this other leg is going to be out to the side with the knee extended. Now, if you don't have a lot of mobility at the hip joint, or maybe you're struggling with some issues through the lumbopelvic region, you can bring this leg a little bit further forward and or laterally rotate that leg. And one of our modifications here would be also to bend the knee, okay? And I'll show both variations when we get into doing the actual exercise with the halo. Okay, so what you're going to do, once you've established that position, I'm going to show the first variation with the leg long facing forward. I want you to grab the Halo Trainer Plus, and I want you to have the short handles facing up. So that means we're in what we call the handles up position. So this will afford us a way to manipulate the ball, not being as close or over top of it, a little further away, and also affords us to be able to work on grip strength and also wrist and elbow stability as we go through this. Okay, so we're in our start position. We've got a vertical pelvis and vertical spine here, stabilizing dynamically through neutral throughout the exercise. So from here, you can angle or start to angle those short handles slightly towards you. Okay, so they might not be 100% straight upwards, but they might have a slight angle, okay, slightly towards you. And then as you start to move the ball away, you're going to let your hips hinge backwards in space. And then you're going to engage the glute of that supporting leg to pull the hips back underneath you. Same thing again here, reaching out and pulling all the way back in. Aiming for some kind of breathing pattern that facilitates this movement, and that's organic, makes sense. And reach it out and come all the way back to vertical. Might also feel some length through that adductor on the bottom, or the long leg rather. Okay, so from the side, what that looks like is a hip hinge. Great, and then coming all the way back up to vertical. So that glute is hip extensors, glute, upper fiber, hamstrings working here to bring the pelvis right back underneath you. Modification here with the knee bent, still getting that nice glide in that hip hinge position, and then still activating through that hip extensor to bring your pelvis back underneath you to restore back to that vertical start position. Okay, so that is the first movement, okay, so that asymmetrical hip hinge. Then what I want you to do is turn and reorient your halo so it's now in the handles down position. So you're going to have the longer handles and the ball facing towards you. Okay, you're going to have your forearm on, or both forearms, not just one, both of them on the ball rather, and you're going to be pushing the ball in towards the Halo Trainer. So you're pushing the ball further in or in the same angle towards those short handles. Okay, so once you've established that, the leg that was straight in the previous exercise, in my case that was my right leg, that is now going to be our gesture leg. Okay, so the supporting knee is still the same. It's going to be underneath the pelvis. I've established this position with the weight through the forearms, pushing into the short handles. I bring the leg up. Okay, so start by aligning the knees with each other. Then from here, you can keep a dorsiflexed or move into a dorsiflexed ankle position, extend the hip, and then come back in. And then take the knee out to the side, abduct, and return. So, lots of stability challenge here for the upper quadrant, okay? As well as a pretty substantial strength element, endurance element through the hips, okay? So you're all hands on deck here, lots going on. If this is too challenging to keep the legs suspended throughout these two movements at the hip joint, what you can do is extend the hip, reset, put the knee back down, abduct, knee goes back down, extend. Yeah, so you can go through that whole series and reset by putting the knee all the way back down in between, okay? So these two movements would be suitable, great for any kind of warm-up or activation protocol. They could also be used as movements for active recovery if you are doing a traditional high-intensity interval training type of workout. So if you need to bring the heart rate down and you maybe have a 30-second or a 1-minute break, you could ideally do anywhere between 5 to 10 repetitions of these exercises isolated or together. So I'm just going to show them to you on the other side and connect the two movements one after the other and just reiterate some of the stuff that that I've already mentioned here. So in your start position, short angles angled slightly towards you, hip hinge, reach the ball away as the pelvis goes back behind you and return. And again, hinge it back, anywhere from 5 to 10 repetitions here. And you'll get some nice dynamic length through the adductor on that long leg. You also will get some length potentially through the hip flexor as you restore back to vertical, when you get good glute recruitment there to bring you back up into your vertical start position. Okay, we'll just do one more here and back. So I'm really using the ball in the halo in that handles up position to facilitate a counterpoint. So I'm getting some length of that pelvis back, or as the hip goes into that hinge and the pelvis goes backwards, and counterpointing and getting that stretch or that length and reach with the ball going forward. So now I'm going to that handles down position. So the long handles are facing towards me, as is the ball. I'm going to have my forearms down. So I've got lots of stability challenges here through the upper quadrant. Core is connected. Again, we're going to work the same way that we did on the first side. So my supporting knee is going to be the same, and the other leg is going to lift off. I'm opting to dorsiflex. That is optional here. And then I'm starting with the knees in line with each other. Okay, minimize the leaning towards your supporting side and extend the hip. Bring it back in line and abduct the hip and return. So again, the aim here is not to get the leg or the hip rather into a very big range of motion. We want to try and keep the lumbopelvic dynamically stabilizing. We don't want to arch or let the lumbar spine or any other body part for that matter start to compensate and try and get the leg into a bigger range of motion or a higher position. So it's about keeping the status through there, keeping the integrity of that position as you work on the strength and the endurance through the hip region. You'll also start to feel this through your supporting hip as well. Okay? So, hope you enjoyed that. It's a great series of exercises, especially if you're doing a lot of running or there's a lot of activities that you've been adding into your summer routine. And I hope you enjoy. Have a great day. Ciao.